My Worm Factory 360 is finally here. So I'm gonna do a quick unboxing, and then hopefully if the weather permits, I'll try to go ahead and start getting my worms into the new bins. All right, so let's see what we have inside. Okay. Start off, got a tray, box with pieces. Let's see. Oh, there's the first one. That's the first little bin, first tray. All right, second one. Third. Fourth. And I ordered 2 extra trays, but they could be any color, so we'll see. Oh, it looks like we're all the same color tray. So I've got a big stack of trays to work with. And I get the last part out. It's stuck. I don't want to break it. After all this time waiting, I definitely don't want to break it. Let's see if we can do it upside down. Just drop it out. There we go. Finally got that last piece. All right, so we got the bottom tray here. We got the bottom part of it. And then I guess this is the top. And it's just gonna be stacking these trays up. And I guess that's my lid. So once it's all assembled, that's how it's gonna look. I have to open this up and go through all the other parts and pieces here. Hopefully there's some instructions in here. I don't know, I've got the little brick of the coconut coir in there. Got some tools. I got where I can check the temperature. I got the little cleaning shovel in there. Let's see, this is, I think, the spout right here, so you can get your worm juice out of there. Get that worm tea. So we got some rock dust, because they're gonna need that, because they eat that to be able to grind up the food as it goes through their body. And then there's some pumice in there. Another little tool for helping us out here with keeping everything organized and maintained. We have our Worm Factory 360 instruction guide. So I will read through that and we'll figure out how to put this together. All right, yeah, definitely gonna read through that and make sure I do this correctly. And then Worm Factory 360, we got I think this is the sticker that kind of goes on top that gives us some instructions and the do's and don'ts. Bin management, feeding, moisture, food list, all the good stuff. The ideal temperatures, 40 to 80 degrees. Keep your worm bin in a dry, cool location. So it's getting a little bit hot right now, so I think inside is probably where this one's gonna go. I'm gonna have to find a good home for it indoors. All right, so that is the unboxing of our Worm Factory 360. I'm gonna read through the instructions, figure out how to assemble this properly and get my worms in here. The assembly looks pretty straightforward. It's just figuring out exactly how to get all the bedding in there and get everything prepared. I'll have to soak this in water, I'm sure, just to get that all expanded and ready. And I am so excited. I finally have a good composting worm bin, and I get to put my worms out of their little starter initial little home in a little clear plastic bin and get them into the actual composting bin. I can do this like the proper way. I'm gonna be learning so much, and I'm gonna share that with everybody. So I'm so excited. Yep, so we have our thermometer here. We're all set with that. Got the little scoop. First off, first thing I'm reading there is I'm not gonna need all these extra bins. This is future stuff right here. I need 1 bin. So we're gonna set those aside, put those in a safe spot until I'm ready for them. I basically just start with this. All right, so this is gonna be my starting Worm Factory 360. I'm gonna have to put the spigot on there, and then I'll have to figure out doing the coconut coir. So this coir is a ground coconut fiber. It is the most desirable bedding material because it retains moisture and improves the quality of the worm castings that go into your garden. And then we have the pumice. Pumice is a lightweight porous volcanic rock which provides excellent aeration and drainage for your vermicomposter. All right, so we got to prepare the bedding. You know what? I'm gonna go get my worms. Okay, we have everything out here. I got my worms. All right, so I need to get something to mix that in. Be right back. All right, so I have some rainwater that I just collected because it did just have a downpour a few minutes ago. Okay, so I'm supposed to be placing the end of the brick. So excited. Place the end of the brick of coir in a bowl. Pour 1 cup of water over the brick and let it soak until it begins to break apart. Crumble off the loosened coir equal to half the brick. Add more water if needed. Oh, and I need shredded paper. Yeah, not really prepared for this. I'm just so excited it's here. Okay, so place the end of the brick, coir in a bowl. Pour 1 cup of water over the brick. Well, let's go ahead and open the whole brick up. All right. Well, we'll just pour that in there. There we go. We'll let that just soak in. And I'm gonna need 1 to 2 cups of shredded paper. Let me see. I think I've got a shredder in there. I'll see if I can collect some paper real quick. Oh, I left it on. You got to hear the whole process. All right, so it looks like the coir brick is expanded here. And I have some freshly shredded paper. All right, so I'm mixing together the moistened coir equal to half the bricks. I need to take half the brick away. Go ahead and get another container to put that in for the moment. Hopefully once I'm done, there's enough to assemble a decent video out of all this. Make sure I'm still filming here. Okay, so I'm going to take half of the brick, roughly. All right, let's put about half the brick over here out of the way. And it's about half. All right. All right, so place the end of the brick of coir in a bowl, pour 1 cup water over the brick, and let it soak until it begins to break apart. Crumble off the loosened coir equal to half the brick. Add more water if needed. Coir should be moist but not wet. Set aside the unused half brick of coir to use later. Mix together the moistened coir, half bag of pumice, 1/2 cup of shredded paper, or 1 to 2 cups of shredded paper, and 1 tablespoon of minerals that came with your worm factory. All right. So I think I do need just a little bit more water to finish moistening all this. Get a little scoop out of the rainwater bucket. I'll add a little bit more in there. There we go, moist but not wet, or not drenched. Yeah, there's still some hard chunks in there. That's mostly good. I guess I can do that on top of the worm bin, have a little bit better view. All right, so we can do it on top of the worm bin. All right, so we got our bedding started here. And then we need to do half the bag of pumice. Let's see, about 1 to 2 cups of paper. And we'll save some of that for later. It's a bit much. Okay, so half the bag of pumice. So it's about half the bag. We're doing 1 tablespoon of the minerals that came with the worm factory. We'll do like a little palm amount for a tablespoon. That looks about right. So add that in there and then mix together. All right, this is so much fun getting my hands in here doing all this. Been waiting 6 weeks. I've had my worms all that time just in this bin, you see right below it. Just hoping that they live long enough to get the actual worm factory. It was delayed, they were having manufacturing issues, but I was patient as could be. I'd already purchased it, so I didn't want to purchase something else because I knew I'd done the research and this is the one that I wanted to use. So I finally got it. I'm so excited. All right, so this seems like it's pretty well mixed together. I think all the dried spots have kind of gotten mixed in, so it looks pretty good to me. All right, so we got the paper, we got the coir, we got the pumice, and we have the other minerals in there that'll help them to be able to digest. So that's the rock dust. And it says apply 1 to 2 tablespoons in each new worm tray. So use the mixture in the starting tray. Store the unused coir, pumice, and minerals to use later when adding a second tray. So we'll hold off on all of that until we need it. And then we have the lid off. And then do we just spread this in there? It says add 1 or 2 cupfuls of garden soil or compost to the bedding mixture. This material contains organic organisms that will inoculate your worm's composter with the beneficial microbes worms depend on to help them digest their food. So I need to add 1 or 2 cupfuls of just compost. So I'm gonna go out to my garden real quick and grab some compost. All right, and I'm back with compost from my compost bin. So made this myself from leaves and grass and all kind of stuff from the yard. So we will add that in. All right, let's go ahead and mix that in there as well. Okay, this is looking good. Now that we have them there, it says cover the bottom of your first starting tray with 1 or 2 sheets of dry newsprint. You'll only do this on your very first tray. All right, so another thing I need to go grab. Be right back with some newspaper. All right, all good. We got this. All right, 1 to 2 sheets of newspaper coming up. Got that Sunday Baltimore Sun. You know what? Real estate section seems the most appropriate since we're giving the worms a new home. All right, so 1 to 2 sheets. All right, so we got 1 in there. Yeah, it seems like I should have the spigot on there at some point. I want to start doing all this and then I have to add the spigot. Well, it says the spigot on your worm factory is mostly cosmetic and should remain open, allowing air to circulate upward through the trays. This allows you to monitor the amount of leachate, and then that gives you details in the manual. Yeah, this is to make our compost tea. It says make your own compost tea. Creating compost tea is a process of brewing, extracting, and exponentially expanding the beneficial components of vermicompost into a water solution. Worm compost tea is known mostly for its ability to boost microbiological activity in soil by adding bacteria, fungi, and actinomycetes and protozoa to the soil. So you got managing moisture, controlling bed temperature. There's more information about the leachate. Now I'll double check how to pronounce that. I got rules about feeding the worms, finding a good location for it, compost harvesting steps, when you should harvest your worm compost. I'm assuming that it's as simple as it looks, and we'll just go ahead and add the spigot on there before we get everything else in place. Yeah, it's just a little washer on the back side. Yeah. All right, yes, that's just putting it in the hole. Line it up. Put the little plastic washer on the back side. Not washer, but you know what I mean. So we put that on the back side and hold that in place. And that's in the off position. Not sure which way is off. Yeah, I can touch my fingers. When it's this way, that's off. Oh, sorry, that's wide open, sorry. Yeah, this is the open position when it's over here, because I can feel my fingers through there. And it says you want it in that position to let it aerate. Okay. All right, so we got newspaper in there. Let's go back to our directions. Okay, add 1 or 2 cupfuls of garden soil. We got that. Okay. Starting your first feeding tray. Okay, cover the bottom of the first tray with 1 or 2 sheets of dry newspaper. You'll do this on your very first tray. Okay. Oh, you'll only do this on your very first tray. So that's the only one that needs the newspaper. Add the moist bedding mixture, spreading it evenly on top of the dry newspaper. Add 2 or 3 cups of food in one corner of the tray. All right, so we have our bedding in the tray. We'll spread that out evenly. All right, and we're putting the food in there before we put the worms in. Yeah, it says add 2 or 3 cups of food in one corner of the tray. And then it says select 5 to 10 full pages of newspaper, no slit color paper. Fold the paper so it will fit into the feeding tray. Wet the paper until it is damp but not dripping. You have just created a moist newspaper cover. Place the moist newspaper cover on top of the bedding and food in the starting tray and wait for your worms to arrive. My worms arrived 6 weeks ago. When the worms arrive, remove the moist newspaper cover, add the worms, including all of the bedding included with the worms, on top of the moist bedding. Replace the moist newspaper cover. Okay, so we're putting the newspaper on top of it after we add our worms. I just received my worms before I had somewhere for them to go. So my little live worms in their temporary home. And they're in there happy. You see, I got the worms. Lots and lots of worms. So they do need food. Okay, so it says place the lid on the worm composter. It is best to not disturb the worms for the first 2 to 3 days while they adjust to their new environment. Your worms will want to explore their new home. Leave a light on for the first 2 or 3 days. This will discourage the worms from exploring outside the composter. And then there's steps for adding additional trays once we're ready for those. It says once the feeding tray is filled, it's time to start the Worm Factory's unique rotating tray system. So it says remove the moist newspaper cover, place an empty tray on top of the feeding tray. This tray becomes the new feeding tray, and the lower tray becomes the processing tray. Cover the bottom of the tray with shredded paper or other bedding material and add 2 or 3 cups of food. Place the moist newspaper cover on top of the food and replace the lid. After a day or 2, look under the moist newspaper cover in the second tray. Do you see worms? If so, that's great. They have started migrating up. Continue adding food, a mix of browns and greens, under the moist newspaper cover. After you have 3 or more operating trays, the vermicomposter is in full operation. It says as the worms process food in the lower trays, they will migrate upward to the newer food, removing themselves from the lower processing trays. Gravity pulls excess moisture down to the stand. Only add food to the newest top tray. It says for best results, place a plastic container under the spigot. Leave the spigot open, allows more air to move upward. All right, I think that's it. Yeah. I'm not sure when you start adding new trays. That's where I'm a little confused still at this point. Okay, so if I'm reading this correctly, I think the process should be that we just have them in this first tray for right now. Give them a couple of days, make sure they're happy in there. And then we can add a second tray, put the moist newspaper on the bottom of that second tray. And then once we check it and we see worms in there, then it's time to go ahead and prep the second tray, and then they can start moving upwards. For now though, they get fed in this bottom tray and we'll get them settled in their new home. So I need a little bit of food to add in there for my worms. Let me go grab some food. Okay, I have a tray of food here. This is stuff from the household, just kitchen scraps. I'm kind of collecting that, waiting for a chance to use it. All right, and it says add a cup or 2. Yeah, it says add 2 or 3 cups of food in the corner of the tray. All right, so we're gonna add food over here in this corner of the tray. We're gonna start over here. And actually, that was about 2 scoops, or about 2 cups, so I think I've got enough. I can go ahead and do 3, and then they've got plenty in there. I know from my root viewer, from what was in there, they've been in that bin so long, there's already a bunch of little babies in there as well. So I think we'll be fine going ahead and adding that in there. All right, so it is time for my worms to get a new home. So excited. Let me shift things around here so you can see this better. And let me grab some tools to help with moving them. All right, we'll shift things around here. Let's see how that looks here. All right, got things shifted around here. All right, now let me get my worms ready to go into the bin. Let's see. I think this will do the job. I'm just gonna go ahead and use the tool that came with it. And we'll just kind of start moving things around here and just get the worms flowing into their new home. Trying to be gentle so I don't, don't want to hurt any of my worms. But yeah, you can tell they've been in there a while. There's a lot of castings and some pretty thick material they were in there. So we'll just, yeah, I mean, it's like spaghetti right there. So many worms. Yeah, if I'm gonna do worms, it's a lot more fun just getting my hands in there. Let's go with that for the rest of it. Yeah, definitely need to cover up that food that I gave them. I'd get a little smell to it, just kind of sitting there waiting for my worms. I'd put it in the freezer today, but hadn't had a chance to freeze yet. I'll check for any stray worms in there later, and I can add those to my root viewer. All right, it's more fun, like I said, just using your hands. Let's go ahead and spread that out evenly. Oh, that is beautiful. My worms have their new home. I'm so excited. This is so cool. Whoop, got one wandering away. All right, and I do need to find a place in the house for this. I'm assuming it's going in my office so that it'll be right there and I can kind of watch them. All right, so we got all the worms spread out. Got that pretty even there. All right, I think my worms have a new home. Woo, beautiful. All right, and having so much fun. I could use gloves, I'm sure, but first try, yeah, you gotta go barehanded. Get in there and enjoy the worm and all the bedding they're in, the compost, and just, this is so cool. All right, so we need wet newspaper on top. So let's see, what's a good one to put on top here? You know what? Oh, love the irony here. So when I did my first worm bin, the newspaper that I put in there had books on it and it had Project Hail Mary. So yes, perfect. Got to add that in here as their top cover. So I still get to see that Project Hail Mary right there on top. All right, so we're gonna spread that out. And here we go, Project Hail Mary right on top. And Take Me to Your Leader, that's the Neil deGrasse Tyson book. Definitely want to read that one. Been watching him talking about you don't want to go up and shake an alien's hand because that might not be their hand. Yeah, he uses that line on all the interviews. It's a good one. And it says 5 to 10 full pages of newspaper, no slick. Okay, All right, and then we're wetting that until it's damp, but not overly wet. Yeah, let me go rinse this out. Be right back again. Hopefully I get this done before it's too dark. Ew, this cup is nasty. All right, so I'm back with water. Just had to empty this and then add some rainwater in there. So I put them in this gazebo and kind of put it at the drip points. I filled those buckets up pretty quick, so got plenty of rainwater. So there we go, that's nice and wet, but not gonna drown them. That's gonna soak into the paper. And I'll give them a nice moist cover right there. All right, I think my worms are in their home. And we will add the lid and we're all set. Have my worms in their composting bin, got my Worm Factory 360, went through the process of getting that set up. I'm going to continue to monitor this and provide updates, and I'm so excited. I got the worms. So lots more to learn. So subscribe, stay tuned for more. This is fantastic. I've got my worms. I'm doing my vermicomposting finally. So I will leave a link to the playlist for all of my gardening together adventures, and I will leave another link for the video where I first received my worms and put them into the bin. All right, well, I just wanted to share this adventure with you, and thanks for joining the journey. See you next time.